What are some things, I mean, I know that you've said that Jerry was a huge influence in your life besides your father. What are some things that we wouldn't know just from watching the TV that made him stand out to you?
Well, I always say, I was telling Frank from Barstool Sports today when we were talking earlier, I knew Jerry for almost 30 years. Mm-hmm. I've been around a lot of celebrities. I've been on other TV shows, many different things. Jerry never yelled at anybody in 30 years of knowing the man. Oh, he never acted like a diva, never acted like he was a star. If you were a young producer working for him and we went out to dinner, he made sure you ordered first. He'd open the door for you. People, he was the star, so everybody rushes up. Oh, Jerry, what do you want? He's like, well, ask her first, like what, she needs something. Mm. So he was the most well-mannered man I ever met in my life. One of the most educated men, the most generous, caring people. Like, I don't know how they ever got the conception like Jerry was this like crazy guy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because if you watch the show, you never get that impression that Jerry was like a lunatic or anything. But he was just honestly, like I said, my father obviously had a very vested interest in my well-being and caring for me. And other than my father, it was Jerry. Mm. When I got my show, he was there for me to lean on, to everything's going to be okay. Because I was nervous, like what happens if my show gets canceled, blah, blah, blah. And, when my kids were born and when I got married, I mean, guy was just unbelievably generous. I got in some trouble a few years ago with the DUI and he was there for me and just every step of the way. I mean, the guy loved me as I loved him. Yeah.
Did he ever give you advice on your show, especially as the years went on?
He just gave me advice as far as like, because when I was trying to figure out what we were going to do, he just said, Steve, he goes, everybody loves you. He goes, you're a very charismatic guy. He goes, just be yourself. He goes, you go out there, you be who you are. And he goes, people are going to love you. He goes, they already love you. Yeah. There's not much to do here.
Oh, that's great. When he died, were you expecting that?
No. So about a month before he passed, he called me up and he said, hey, I'm going to be in town. I'm going out with all the guys that worked on his show, that were working on my show and stuff. I'm going to, because he used to go out every Monday night with his crew to dinner. He would take them out to dinner. And he said, I'm coming to town. And a lot of the guys that he was taking to dinner work on my show. So he said, I want to go to dinner. Why don't you come to dinner with us? Well, I was taping that day, and I said, Jerry, you know how it is. I go, I'm taping all day. I'm tired. I just want to go home. Mm-hmm. And he goes, Steve, I really would love to see you. And I said, I thought that was a little odd. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'll tell you what, Jerry, you go to dinner. I go, when I get done taping, I'm going to go home. I'm going to rest a little bit. You tell me when you're done, and I'll meet you for a cigar. Because we're both big cigar smokers. Mm-hmm. He said, okay. So he got done dinner with, 20, 30 guys. He took the dinner. And so he goes, okay, I'll meet you at the place in Stamford. Cigar put John Starks from the Knicks. He owns a cigar bar. So we went to his place and we were having cigars. And it was and I said this, it was funny because me and Jerry were never guys that talked about the glory days or, oh, remember this, remember that. We never did that. My son is a big athlete and played baseball, football, this, and then he's got a grandson that he absolutely adored. I think a year younger than my son. So we would always talk about our kids because his grandson was a big athlete too. So we'd talk about our boys. He was a Yankees fan. I was a Cubs fan. We would talk politics. He's a Democrat. I'm a Republican, all this. And we would just talk about things like that. Never about the past. But this night, we're sitting there smoking. We were laughing about the old days. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? And it was really different, and we were having a great time. But I noticed he was shaking really bad. And I said, Jerry, you all right? He goes, I got, he was trying to explain something. I got a little something pressed on some nerves, whatever. It's nothing. I said, okay. So when we're getting ready to leave, he got really emotional, and he said, he goes, I love you, Steve. And I said, yeah, I love you too, Jerry. Not thinking anything, Mm-hmm. But I think he knew, like, this last time he was ever going to see me, because he knew he had pancreatic cancer, but he didn't divulge that to me.
He didn't tell you, I see.
So he was very emotional, and I thought he was being very melancholy because he wasn't on TV anymore. And Jerry loved being on TV. So I thought he was just being sad because
of
he
that.
didn't have his TV career anymore. I felt bad for him, but little did I know he was actually dying. And then he passed away. My wife came home from somewhere. I was home, and she said, Jerry died. And I was shocked, but not surprised.
Right.
Because Jerry was always a healthy guy. He didn't drink. He didn't do drugs or anything like that. And I thought he'd live to be 100, you know. So he was 79 when he passed. And, so I was surprised, but I wasn't shocked.
How soon after you last saw him did he pass away?
About a month, yeah.
Wow. I'm really sorry for your loss.